I do especially want to always wonder if somebody says that they're agnostic. I think people identify with that term for a lot of different reasons, but I would want to know what somebody's history with faith is. Were they raised in a faith tradition that then they've drifted from? Were they raised out of a faith tradition and they're like just not sure? Is it a kind of principled intellectual stance, or is it more like a sense of struggle and uncertainty? What's going on there? And I think that yeah, I mean, I think Christians learn this from Jewish people and from the Old Testament. But we know if the name Israel is one who struggles with God, like this idea of Scripture as this the prophets and even the very people of Israel and continuing is like this ongoing struggle with like what does it mean to live as those whom God has chosen, uh, and yet things are often really messed up. And what does that mean? And how does that and so to read the prophet Jeremiah, for example, and to see this like chaotic, you know, heart cry to God of like that sometimes says like, God, you're punishing us, sometimes says, God, where are you? Sometimes says, God, you're my greatest comfort, sometimes promises good for the future. I think there's a room in the scriptures to struggle. And so for someone who says that they're agnostic, if they're in a kind of position of struggle with faith, like we're in a position of having been wounded by a faith community, I mean, sometimes in very clear ways, like sexual assault or sexual abuse, or seeing that happen, or seeing, I mean, then I think that those wounds need to be acknowledged. I think that to the extent that those wounds are the product of a broken, sinful faith community, that needs to be acknowledged and named truthfully, and 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 then trying to figure out, well, what does it mean for you to sit with these questions, and to try to hold out hope. I mean, as a Christian, I want people to see the truth and beauty and goodness of Christian faith, and to find find a place in that. But I think that my role, not just as a psychiatrist but as a Christian, is just to try to ask questions, try to hear, try not to make assumptions, and try to kind of hold out hope for people in that journey.